All right, so hi everybody. Welcome to the May 8th CHAOSS Metrics and Metrics Model Working Group meeting. I think today we're going to talk a little bit about just kind of the role of this group and what we hope to accomplish during this meeting time. So the premise for having this discussion is that for a while we were having, it's kind of gone, it's gone back and forth, but for a long time when the CHAOSS project started, one of our main goals was the creation of metrics and documenting those metrics. And we have probably close to, 90 metrics to date right now. And that was when the enterprise of the CHAOSS project was kind of smaller and really, again, focused on building out those particular artifacts. Over time, we've kind of evolved into thinking more about how to help people and organizations engage with those metrics, not necessarily just with the development of new ones all the time. And so the CHAOSS project shifted a little bit from really the working groups like value and common and evolution that focused on metrics, the creation of metrics, but more on groups like OSPO University, a corporate OSPO University, funding impact on how to help groups use those metrics. And so that naturally kind of changes what what the metrics and metrics model working group might be about, because we used to spend time creating. Now we're really not doing that quite as much in the CHAOSS project.
Yeah.
So for a while, what we tried to do is have people kind of represent, or be present in that corporate OSPO or the university OSPO meeting. And as metrics were identified, we called them liaisons. And as metrics were identified, we would try to develop them for the group. I think the problem with that was that, like let's say that Dawn was a liaison for the university OSPO, she'd kind of bring it back here and not picking on you, Dawn, but maybe not like really understand like what the metric is really supposed to be about in that context. So it was really hard for, say, Dawn to develop that particular metric because she didn't quite have the context. Or likewise for me being a liaison, say for the corporate OSPO working group, I may not fully understand the context. So it's hard for me just to write that metric. So we kind of stalled a little bit in terms of developing metrics. We did have a push a little while ago about retemplating the metrics to make them more consumable, and I think that was a really great push, and we were able to get through that. But now here we are, kind of wondering what the role of this group should be. You can see that interest in this group has waned, has gone down over time. So there are a lot fewer people who participate here, which is again totally fine. But so the question is like, what do we do? Do we need to meet? And Peculiar and I had talked about just she being present, for example, in I think Peculiar, are you in UNSDG? I kind of think, and like me in university, but trying to listen a little bit where we have an interest. Peculiar, where do you spend some of your time? I forget. Is it UNSDG?
Yeah, I do attend, and also data science working group.
Oh yeah, data
I
science as
was
well.
a data science working group some days back, and I talked about this matters, and there are actually someone that has something, but
Okay.
say she's going to work more on it before she can come up to champion that.
Okay, that'd be great. And so so Peculiar talking in data science or UNSDG because she's already present there, or me talking, say, in the university working group. I didn't do it last week because we had a guest speaker, but like just showing people what the template is, reminding them that they can create metrics, but really doing that work in those groups. Like if somebody actually has a metric they want to develop, we actually take time in, say, the data science working group to build the metric, not ask Peculiar to bring it back here to develop
Exactly.
a metric where we
Yeah.
lose that context. And then we are, in the past, we were like, I forget what this is about. I don't know what I'm supposed to write. And so just being a little bit more, but So it seems like this is making sense. But Peculiar and I don't have like the capacity to meet with all of these groups. So like I don't attend, say, corporate OSPO, and I'm not looking for somebody to do this work. I'm just saying that I don't attend it as regularly as I used to. So we have a gap there, for example. Or somebody may not be attending, I don't know, maybe the funding one. Again, gap there. And Peculiar and I were like, that's fine. We just have a gap and maybe it'll be filled in time, but we don't have to be super aggressive to try to fill that gap in the moment. So anyway, that's where we are. And then I think we decided just to use this meeting to connect on if there's been any movement in any of these other groups and just how things are going. So I'll leave it at that. That was my 5-minute overview.
Yeah, and I mean, from my standpoint, for the because I do attend a lot of the context working groups, the funding, the OSPO, the data science, and we don't really get a lot of requests to develop metrics
Yep.
anymore. So it's it used to be a really common thing where people be like, oh, well, we need this metric and I can't find it. It's not defined. How do we get it defined? And that it just feels like our conversations have evolved since then, and that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, like Peculiar said, it does come up sometimes when somebody wants to define a new metric, but I feel like those are the exception, not the rule, and they're more one-offs.
Agreed. It's more towards like helping people think about the existing metrics in practice, how to assemble them in ways that's meaningful to them. I know that like your practitioner guides are how to get the data and then say think about it in a way that's meaningful for your particular organization. So the focus really, Yahui, the work that you're doing like with Compass, like about how to deploy these metrics that are already published. It's not that we need more, but it's thinking about how to put them into practice. So yeah, so this really Sean with Augur, Grimoire Lab, whatever it might be, but really kind of getting them like alive in the world more than documenting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as you and Don just mentioned, at the very beginning, when we set up matrix model working group, we just set up another concept about how to organize those item metrics into a model. So that's the very beginning. So initialize this working group, the goal, I mean. So it looks like it has finished its very first goal based on this working group, I think. And lately, we use this working group to organize how to, well organize how to define, how to create template for the working metrics model, and how to teach people to write down, create a new metrics model. And then we discuss more about how to deploy those metrics model, make it more practical, no matter in industrial areas or in some other area, for example, OSPOs or open source organizations. So, uh, and in the past few years, when I joined in the CHAOSS community, I also set up another, community called OSS Compass to make it more deployable based on the CHAOSS metrics model. Of course, we create some more metrics and metric model, but honestly speaking, they all initially comes from CHAOSS. And my initial goal is to let more people from, no matter from China or from all over the world, know how to use chaos metrics and models into their communities or open source projects in whatever the intentions. So when I create this OS Compass, and in the past 2 years, I noticed that you have to make those metrics and metrics models to produce the real value for the people who want to use that. Then they would come to you and collaborate with you based on the metrics and metrics model. So, uh, you know, at the very beginning of OSS Compass, we just create like 7 or 8 metrics model, like community activities, something like that, to evaluate health of community. But uh, the feedback I got mostly from people that how to so okay, you evaluate health of the community, but how to use that? What's the purpose to evaluate? So after almost in the past 1 year, I'm thinking about that and to trying to collaborate the different people from different organizations, mostly from China, no matter Atom Foundation, Open Atom Foundation, and some other organizations, and including the companies, different companies.
Can I ask you a
So
question really fast? So, um, in that last year that you were thinking about this, is
yeah,
it is what you were thinking about? So, is it that companies would see the results from the metrics and metrics models and basically ask, now what? Is that the question that they would wonder?
yeah, they just ask me how to use metrics model for what purpose.
Okay, so like what do I do with this data?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I just send you a mail about the Compass OS Compass meeting, which plan to held on next month, early next month, in China. We are planning to launch out 4 new services. That 4 new services is basically what I observe that the people need the real case based on the metrics and metrics models. Maybe you can open up that slide.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you
Yeah, I see
got
it.
that.
Hold on just a second.
Yeah.
I'll share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yep. Uh, we can just skip out the first 3 or 4, addresses, no matter from Peking University or from CHAOSS. That's the starting point. You can focus on the 4 launches. The first one is about Open Search Data Hub service. The second is about Open Ecosystem Insight service. The third is about open source evaluation framework release. The last one is developer impact personnel service launch. I can explain a little bit the background of these 4 services, why we plan to publish those 4 services. The first one is about something about open source research GitHub. What I when I communicate the different people, no matter from the people from like some professors from different universities or some peoples from different corporations, uh, they have their own purpose to use this open source data. No matter this data could be, focused on the open source community or open source developers or open source artifact. So based on the metrics and metrics model we created, we already create a lot of data set for that. So we don't need really care about how to use that, but they just want the clean data. That clean data should be should have well structured with good data schema
Yep.
data.
So this
And
sounds like this is similar to like the data that say Augur would collect, like very focused on not necessarily answering particular question, but making that data available for other people who might want to ask questions.
exactly.
Okay.
So then maybe they just want to write a paper
Sure.
on some specific areas, research areas. So, but the really big effort we could help them to save. I mean, provide well-structured
Sure.
data, no
Around
matter what.
around some
Yeah.
of the CHAOSS metrics, it sounds like as well.
Also,
Yeah.
also for the large language model training, they also need such data.
Yeah. This
So,
sounds like a later iteration of are you familiar with, say, GH torrent? Was an
mhm,
early,
yeah, exactly.
very, very early. Was it MSR? Did they have a
Mhm,
database as well? So,
yeah,
okay, sounds like something similar to that, but
yeah,
like more advanced.
exactly. But what we provided is all about based on the, metrics and metrics model.
Sure.
You
Okay.
know, add some actual information on that.
Okay.
Active developers for the specific project, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, they
Okay.
need that. I can see many organizations need such data. So that's why
Is
we
Peking
set up.
University doing that work? Is that
We support Peking University to do so. We will set up a mirror station of OSS Compass
okay?
just like DataHub.
Okay.
We make this OSS Compass data site. It's open, it's free to connect it by REST API or archive the data to download, just like GH Archive or GH Torrent.
Okay.
Yeah. We will set several mirror stations from Peking universities or Open Atom foundations or Chinese Academy of Sciences, sciences, yes,
Okay.
CS. So they would have enough sources to download those data or connect with REST API. That's the first service we are gonna publish. The next one is about open ecosystem inside service. In that way, there are some foundations like Open Atom foundations. They want have a deep insight about Chinese open source situation, and of course about all over the world open source insight. So they need something like big data inside for the open source. So like how many active open source project and active developers exist in different countries all over the world, and in China, how many, and how many developers or projects in the different cities of China, and also what's the technical areas they focus on in recent years. That's about the general trend
Do
about
they
open source ecosystem.
do they also care about does the Open Atom Foundation also care about things like an open source supply chain? So the projects that they rely on, understanding the health of those projects, and then, further upstream, Because like all open source projects are connected, sort of in some way. And so,
Yeah, it's actually to the third service. It's about open source evaluation framework.
okay, which is
Yeah,
more about that, about like understanding the projects that you depend on and their dependencies and so on and so forth.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I can step to the third service. So like you mentioned, they care about supply chain of software, open source software. They have to choose the different, secured open source software, and select one of them into their product. So we have to provide the different metrics and metrics models to help them to
Yep.
evaluate.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, no matter from community that level, but also comes from the artifact quality
Yep.
that level.
Yep.
And
Totally.
also, yeah, yeah. So that's why we provide such services. And also we do found there is a lot of needs on that. So that service, why it comes.
Is that um does that is that being worked on or does that exist? Because I'm also working with a couple faculty here in the United States where we're looking at supply chains and particularly from a socio and technical perspective. So like, where are they at on that framework? Do you know?
Mhm. Uh, I'm not sure, but in OS Compass,
Yeah.
we would like to provide the different metrics and metrics models, and the the final decisions to choose which software to be used into a
Yeah.
specific product is not the responsibility of OSS Compass.
Oh.
We only provide the metrics and metrics
Yeah.
model.
And then they have to make the decision.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly.
So is anything published on that? I'd be really interested to see that in particular. Do they have kind of like what they're looking at in terms of some of their initial metrics or metrics models? Have they thought through that yet?
Sure. At least in this OSS Compass meeting,
Yeah.
Chinese Academy of Science would publish one of their product connected with OS Compass. They
Okay.
provide platform to let people to choose
Yep.
a right software, open source software. Sorry.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's very interesting. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And the last one is a developer impact profiling service launch. So, it's about how to evaluate the impact of the developers. You know, for some projects, they are thinking for some big impact in a specific areas. How to fund them, you know. So we provide such service to help people to, for developers themselves, they know how many contributions and how big impact for other project or developers. And also for some organizations, they are also thinking for those people to help them to create a
Mm.
new project or help them to create, into a specific or exist open source project. So
Yeah,
we provide such service help those people.
I think you might also want to, in that regard, kind of over the years, coming to understand that, yeah, it's important to understand developers, specific developers. I think it's also important to understand, like, say, coalitions or coalitions of developers that represent a company. So not just a single, say, Google employee, but a coalition of Google employees within a particular project
Mhm.
could be really important to understand as well. Dawn and I are looking at a forking project, and this it's really not about one person. It's about a group of people that kind of
Yeah.
control quite a bit. And one of the arguments that we make at the end is having a better understanding of that coalition of people
Mhm.
is pretty important to understand as well before a company makes a decision to join a project, or if they do join, kind of understanding the risks that they inherit in joining that project.
Exactly. Yeah. First thing we are thinking for, if we will a company want to join a project, they are looking for if this project exists the KOL. So if this project exists the KOL, okay, fine, then they have they trust more on those peoples, because those peoples have more possibilities to make this project successful.
Yeah. And it can go, I think it can go both ways too, because if a one company, what we were seeing, at least in a couple cases, where one company controls a lot of the organization, or I'm sorry, a lot of the community, they have an opportunity to make these unilateral licensing changes, which can have really bad effects for people
Yeah,
engaged with the project, either through contributions or through use.
yeah.
So this is,
So
I think this points out again, like, we're not sure what providing that data would be helpful. It could mean a variety of different things. It could mean stability for a project, or it could mean a greater risk incurred. It would be up to the person to decide what that data means, but providing it, I think, is extremely useful.
yeah, that's true. So, for example, for this developer's impact, they could have positive impact, but also could have some negative.
Exactly. Yeah, you might know that somebody's a real jerk and they have a huge, a huge role in a
Yeah,
project, and you're like, yeah, I don't want to work with that person. So
yeah.
I'm not
That's
asking
the
Don for examples, but I'm pretty sure there exists some in the world.
yeah. Just something just happened one year ago about XZ Util. That project, no one knows those people, just pop up and become the maintainer of this project, and injure some bad code into this project.
Yep.
So how to find those people, uh, the earlier stage, then we may prevent the bad things happened.
Oh yeah. Well, right. I mean, identifying those people could be a real strategic advantage too. So identifying somebody who's a key maintainer and hiring them into your company is something
Exactly.
that there have been papers written about that.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe the last thing I see here too is that ISO working group establishment. I'm guessing that's for the metrics model stuff.
Yeah. That's the thing I just talked in our board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think this is a nice like 20-minute overview of I think exactly what we're talking about here, which is putting the metrics into practice, less about building metrics, but helping people engage with them in more meaningful ways.
Yeah. So the reason we may talk about the meaning, the next, I mean the way forward of the metrics model working group. So I start introducing the schedule of OS Compass OS Compass meeting. The reason is that, so that's the thing. I think maybe our working group could do that, but of course, in our community, we have some other uh, working group already do the similar thing.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. It really depends on our decision that if we how to make it forward on this working group.
So it seems like we keep landing like over and over again on not focusing on developing metrics. They may appear every now and then. That's completely fine.
Mhm.
But really focusing on the deployment of those metrics in the world, or in the case of, say, ISO, the establishment of standards, the metrics or models as standards, like trying to think about them, the metrics and metrics models as existing in the world. Even like I'll go, like it's not even something that we talked about here, but like the work that Dawn has been doing with practitioner guides is it's that. It's really that. It's taking a look at what metrics we have, how they can get you to think about something. And when the data is in front of you, a little bit like kind of extending the models, but when the data is in front of you, what are things that you can do to think about that data? So the guides seem to fall right in this way of thinking as well, even though they've never been something that we have like officially been part of this like metrics model working group.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is my, I mean, this is my, but then the question is, do we need to meet at this time? Like, what is the value in meeting here? Is it to talk about what the CHAOSS project is doing? So like, is it less about metrics and metrics models and more like a like an outreach meeting? Like we're thinking about how these things live in the world and we can bring this back to the community call. So like I've been part of open source projects that have like an outreach working group. So SPDX, the standard, they had a whole group that was like trying to just focus on people, trying to understand how people are using the standard in the world. That was really it. You know what I mean? And they would do like evangelism as needed. But it was, they spent all this time making the standard, kind of like us making metrics. And then they're like, all right, now we need to get people to use this thing. Like we need to understand how it lives in the world. And it's almost sounding like what this is becoming, like a metrics outreach.
When we discuss at the very beginning, when we discussed to set ISO standard goal as our chaos metric, as our chaos community goal, my initial idea is that to facilitate more people to start thinking about how to use and how to use metrics model. That's the very initial, and that's also my. I also keep this idea right now because no matter how many metrics and metrics we produce from chaos, if there's no people, there's no scenario to use those metrics or models in the real case, then they are useless.
Agreed. And the most successful example of use to date has probably been the DEI event badging program, because those are, it's only like a half a dozen metrics, maybe 8 metrics, but they are used over and over and over again by event organizers all over the world to think about DEI within their events. So I mean that was the goal of event badging. Project badging hasn't taken off as much, but and like when I see what you're doing with Compass, it's kind of like the software trace data side of things, like what event badging did. Like let's build a system and a tool to get these things out there in front of people. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here that you're doing. And same with the ISO standards. It seems like the ISO standards are needed in the sense of it seems like there are certain organizations that can work with the metrics a little bit more easily if they were an ISO standard. Like they can talk about them more internal in their company if it wasn't really a standard. Okay, good.
So if we are talking about the future of the metrics model working group, we may more focus on the how to facilitate more people use those our metrics model in the real case. Currently I have the confidence that in China I do found a group, a huge amount of organizations had such requirement on the metrics models. That's why I published those 4 services.
Sure.
So I would like to, not not have to, in this working group, if we do agree that we can merge this working group with our community working group, I'm super fun, but I would like to take a channel to communicate with our people from community. I mean, to share the experiences I experienced in China. So how do they use our metrics and metrics models in the real case?
Yeah.
And they do have some feedback, and no matter good or bad, and to improve, to prove that we do produce the value for
Mhm.
people in the open source world.
Agreed. I like this too because there's kind of this argument that says you can produce all of the documents that you want, meaning metrics or metrics models, um, but the way that people engage with those documents is not necessarily the way you thought they would engage with those documents. So I think we've all seen this in our organizations, say, as our companies create policies around like work or promotion, like there are the policies that are published, and then there are the policies that are actually in practice. They're kind of two different things
Okay.
sometimes. And I think metrics could be kind of similar, that we have these things that are published and we think we understand how they're going to be used in practice, but it may be quite different. So I like this idea of facilitation, this group kind of thinking about facilitating use of metrics and metrics models. I'm really curious what Dawn is thinking, kind of listening in here.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of using this meeting to maybe outreach to some of the other groups, and this, because it's interesting, like we really haven't used this meeting to develop metrics and metrics models for a while. But we do use this meeting to sync up with Yahui on what's going on with Open Source Compass and the ISO work and some of the other stuff that people are working on. So I like the idea of doing that. I'm not sure. I think what we'll struggle with a little bit is how to explain it and to get more people involved in a way that's productive. I'm not
Mhm.
quite sure. I'm not quite sure where to take this and how to build traction around it, I guess.
Right, because I feel like you probably have pretty similar conversations, say in the OSPO working group. Like people are thinking about using metrics and
Mhm.
like how to make business decisions based on those, but that's occurring over there. And same with like university, like those university OSPOs are thinking the same, UNSDG is thinking the same, like how to
Yeah.
put these into practice.
And because those are more specific contexts. So the
Yeah.
OSPO working group is easy because it's a whole bunch of OSPOs. The UN SDG thing is, people focused on the UN, Sustainable Development Goals. And so you've got a thing to focus on. Whereas this reminds me a little bit of the common metrics working group, where it was kind of the things that don't fit into the other
These
buckets.
contexts.
Yeah, because you could look at this, and things like, we could use a meeting like this to build connections with other organizations like Open Chain, for example. There's lots of other groups that do related things that maybe we could make better connections to through a meeting like this.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge is in making it relevant to whatever other groups we decide to pull into it. Does that make sense?
It does. So I mean, like right off the bat, like I look at that right hand column on my screen right there, and it's Peking University, Open Atom. I know Open Euler has had like interest in this in the past as well. Nanjing, the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Like, would it be worth using like meeting time to try to get reps from each of these places by saying this is about, like, it's common, like it's just it's not a particular context, so to speak, but it's really about how to make the CHAOSS metrics available, kind of almost context independent, or how to think about metrics in practice context independent. And it looks like there's folks here who are thinking along those lines. We could move this meeting time to make it considerably more friendly to folks in China. But what would you think of that, Yahui?
Yeah, I think it's really to my context. I'm in China, so I'm more familiar with the organizations who show interest, who show big interest on the
Yeah.
chaos metrics and metrics models. So you can say that um, universities or some research organizations and foundations, and I represent Huawei, so
Yep.
including the corporations, the industrial areas, they do have some specific requirement of the metrics and metrics models. So at least um I can make it, we can make it as a study case that how to facilitate people to from different aspect or dimensions to use metrics and metrics models, as from China, from different other countries or organizations, like Dawn just mentioned, Open Chain,
Yep.
and also from maybe from Europe countries or US, United States. So to
Right.
share their experiences, I could invite the people from different organizations from at least from China
Yeah.
to share their experiences and thinkings how to use these metrics and metrics models.
I'd be very interested in that. And I think that actually also, if I recall, on our goals that we had for 2024, like one of them was identifying something like that, like identifying chaos in the world, like how it lives in the world or something like that. Do you remember that? It was one of the like deployments. I don't have it right in front of me. Do you have it in front of you, Don?
Yeah, I just have to switch slides because I still have the presentation open. Um, was it um
On the left side?
was it the data-driven insights to help communities or SaaS solutions? Or adapt to accommodate emerging technologies?
Maybe, yeah. Like new ways of it seemed like maybe it doesn't fit, but like trying to identify, I don't know, it is a SaaS solution, but um what was the first one you said? Here,
So on the left-hand side of the goals, we have offer SaaS solutions for chaos metrics. We
here.
have
Can you share
introduced,
your screen?
yes, absolutely.
That would make a lot more sense.
Here, let me just keep reading things to you.
Yeah, as opposed to me just
Right
imagining.
now.
And tell me what color it is too, because I need to know.
Here you go.
Yeah, it's probably number 5 is probably what I was looking at.
Okay. Yeah,
Data.
because that was really the one around the data science initiative.
Yeah, and that user community, like that's, so this seems like it's along those lines, is trying to support that. And sure, it could definitely be the data science community, but it could be other places as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think to Kevin's point during the board meeting, I think we need to, rethink maybe 2 and 5, because now that we've gotten a little farther in the data science working group, there is a lot of overlap between the user community and the people using some of the things like the
Yep.
practitioner guides and stuff. So
Right. Yep.
I think we can retool this and possibly combine it with number 2.
Yep.
Or maybe we decide they're really separate, but if so, I think we need to better define that.
Okay. So I'm thinking maybe this time or a time that's more amenable, Yahui, to folks in China to really talk about this is the metrics/metrics model meeting. It's less about the development of them, although that may occur, which is it doesn't preclude that. But it's really about thinking about how they live in the world. And we have that list that you gave me, a whole group of people who are thinking about this as well. Um, and I really like that. It's like metrics outreach or something like that, whatever we ended
Yeah,
up.
I think we should definitely rename it. The challenge with calling it something like outreach is that sounds a little like marketing. And so,
Yeah, I get
yeah,
it.
but,
You know where I'm going with it.
I
Like,
do. Yeah, something along the lines of using chaos metrics or chaos metrics in practice or
yes,
something along those lines to get at the fact that what we talk about is not how to build the metrics, but how to actually use them in your day-to-day contexts.
yep. And then Yahui, if we have this here in the CHAOSS project and you can have people come like kind of on that list, maybe from the other universities. The other nice thing is we will have reps from the CHAOSS project as well, who would be present in those conversations to provide feedback or to learn. I think that'd be very helpful.
Great, I will do so. I
Yeah.
really like to do so. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you could also find a time that's better for you. Because if everybody's joining from China, you don't have to go to US Central Time.
I really want to have the chance to bring people from China to discuss people like you, Matt, and Dawn. But if we think about time differences, if we can adjust it a little bit earlier of this current time slot, that would be much better. Yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
I think
That's true.
I know that's good for Dawn too. Like if we were 3 hours earlier, you know, I don't know what that would probably be pretty good for you. Make your Thursday a little bit better.
Yeah, I still have, well, actually
If it's possible.
yes, it would make my Thursday better for time. So I normally, sorry, I have CNCF meetings until 7 p.m.
Oh, okay.
on Thursdays, but those are going away
Oh,
because they've reorganized the way they're doing things within the CNCF. And so we've end of lifed the
some of
contributor
those things.
activity tag and moved that work into other places.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna have to do that anymore, which is pretty great.
That is pretty great. All right, look at Thursday might just get really good for you. So,
Yeah, exactly.
well, we're at the end of our time. This is a very productive conversation, so I really do appreciate it. Let's if we could pick this up just kind of in one of the Slack channels, that would be great. I think we have a couple things about finding a new time. Oops. Finding a new time and then also kind of renaming and then probably also being pretty clear on what it is that we're planning on doing for the community. So like we'd probably need to respond to that like issue. I can do that in the one that Kevin opened up. You know what I mean? That basically just put pressure on asking. Yeah, peculiar.
Okay, I have a question. So I understood everything you said. But my question is, what if we have like someone or a matrix to develop sometime somewhere? We can still do that here, can we?
Oh yeah, 100%. But I think
That's
the development, it's important that the development would occur, for example, in the data science time slot with data science people around. So if somebody really wanted to develop a metric from data science, it's developed there. And you can help peculiar because you know the template. And same in the university. Like if somebody really wanted to develop a metric in the university OSPO, we do it there. We take the time
okay.
to write it in that meeting.
Okay. Okay. Get it.
Because I think if we bring it to this meeting, we lose context on what it is. We forget what the person who asked for it really wants. And then we end up
It
having
feels
to,
like we never have the right people in the room when we do that.
no, and we always have to go back, and then like as soon as you know, as soon as you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you just lose momentum and like what the idea was about in the first place. So I do think if OSPO, you know, Dawn, if somebody does say something, they really want to develop a metric, then that's something that goes on the agenda in OSPO or
Yeah,
data.
that makes sense.
Yep. And then this meeting, we could just talk about what is being developed, but probably more importantly, kind of what we were talking about as well, about how these metrics are living in the world. This is actually,
Mhm.
this is more exciting. It's nice to kind of have a path forward, I think. And it's nice to hear that we're all kind of in agreement on moving this forward. So very cool. All right, now we're done.
Oh, one last thing.
Wait, we're not done. All right,
Sorry, 2 minutes. If you check the schedule, I would like to invite our CHAOSS people to show up in
I saw
our
that.
class meeting. So I already checked with the meeting room. They have a Wi-Fi connected, so we can have some online meeting broadcast. So if Mike or Don, if have time, we maybe give you 10 minutes slot at the very beginning
I saw that.
schedule.
Yeah.
So you can give us some thinkings about chaos and the collaborations between chaos and OS Compass, something like that. It's a very free talking speak to show so how important are
I
the
think
connections.
we can find somebody, no problem, I think, for that, whether it's me or Don or Sean or Elizabeth, even Georg. I mean, I think we can find somebody, Daniel. That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have two things or one thing?
Just one thing. 2
All right.
minutes.
Now we're done. All right. Oh, one thing for 2 minutes. I got you. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds very good. If you could put that request also in Slack, just as a reminder, and then we can take care of it that way. All right, cool.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody. It was a really good meeting. It's good to see you.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.